Hi everybody, and welcome to the webinar Reshaping Associations, the Impact of the Pandemic on Membership Models. It's good to see we've got quite a few people already here today. I can see we're at 83, 84. Okay, there's still a few people logging in. Thanks very much for joining me. Now, we'll jump into it straight away. Now, this session, a few housekeeping things first up. It's being recorded. The recordings will all be available tomorrow. There's a follow-up half-day workshop on this called The Essential Building Blocks of Successful Associations. That's running this Wednesday from 9 till 12, and there'll be a recording of that also available. And for anybody who wants to be part of our video discussion group where we've all got our videos up there and can talk about some of these concepts, that's running on Friday. On Friday morning, we've got Planning Your Association's Future. And in the afternoon, we've got an income generation brainstorming session with Julian Moore. And of course, if at any stage you've got any questions, you can jump onto the online discussion group and post a question to the membership chat, which I jump into and check really regularly. And all of this is available at www.answers.net.au. So let's jump into what we're talking about today. COVID-19 has had a massive impact on what associations are doing. And it's really been interesting how varied that impact has been, so much so that you'll get a link, and I'm sending it out to everybody I know over the next week or two, for a big research project we're doing to try and understand the actual full impact on associations and their members. But let's have a look at when this crisis has hit. What it's done is it's accelerated change in an already rapidly changing landscape. And this has made it immensely difficult for a lot of associations who were already struggling to adapt to actually shift in and adapt to what's come forward. Now, before the pandemic hit, or before this crisis hit, there was already a number of really huge change agents at play that associations were, to a varying extent, attempting to adapt to. Now, those of you who've seen me speak before and read my Association Apocalypse paper will have seen these. We're talking about technology disruption. There is amazing software out there available that enables you to streamline efficiencies within your organization, maximize the membership experience. Marketing automation is incredible. I know of one association that managed to halve its attrition rate just by putting marketing automation into its new member onboarding and its renewal process. So technology has had a massive impact. And one of the things that comes with technology is something we've never had before, which is the ability to scale up membership, because membership is a very costly, it's a time-intensive tool. And what that means is that traditionally associations have been constrained. You can't really grow when any incremental change takes an almost equivalent amount of increased time and money to be able to increase your size. But what's happened with technology, because of the efficiencies that it brings in, it's done something that wasn't available before, which is it makes it easier for associations to scale up. So if you're in an area where you might have several associations who all overlap, one association who can successfully put in technology that maximizes the membership experience and also enables it to leverage and scale through efficiencies could very, very quickly, theoretically, then expand to absorb, take over, or basically extend itself beyond its traditional membership borders. So technology is both a really amazing opportunity, but for some associations it's a threat, particularly when other associations are perhaps more advanced in their implementation of technology. And what we've got overlaid on here, traditionally we've had this generational change where you've got all these generations in the workforce, and what that means is they've got different attitudes towards membership. The baby boomers who are the most likely to join, renew, and get proactively involved with their associations. And as a result, the decision-making channels, the products, the services, the publications, the way they communicate, their events are all geared to the baby boomers because these are the people who built the associations we have today. But when you look at younger people's attitudes towards membership, and we're going to talk more about that because this has been accentuated through the COVID crisis, younger people have very different attitude towards membership. They've been conditioned to these subscription-based models that they live with every day, that all these huge corporates promote. And you can't fight Microsoft, you can't fight Apple. And associations who persist in sticking with the old membership models will very quickly find that they're losing relevance with this younger generation. We're even finding simple things like in the past, people were typically very loyal to an organization, to their association. But now we're seeing with younger people that loyalty is to individuals. So if a very charismatic association leader or staff member or even another member leaves, often you'll see an exodus of younger people behind them because their loyalty was to that person, not to the association. And these nuances in dealing with generations are really, really critical to understand, particularly now. You've got overlaid on here the competitive forces that are coming through. You will find that a lot of associations, they're actually in a lot of trouble because of a death by 1,000 cuts. There's rarely one direct competitor that comes on head on to try and wipe out an association. Invariably what it is you'll have lots and lots of competitors who compete with some of your products and services, people who compete with your professional development, with your webinars, with your events, with your publications, with your other products and services, HR, IR, that kind of thing. And that death by 1,000 cuts, where it's a gradual erosion of what you're doing, where your value proposition gets less and less and less, and before you know it, there's no compelling reason for somebody to join. Now, that is a huge threat for associations because you start to see yourself as being surrounded by competitors. And when we talk about these new models moving forward, you'll see that we don't have to see it from that perspective. But it is important to note that it's not your traditional competitors that you really need to worry about, or at least not just that you need to worry about. You've also got people like LinkedIn who've got LinkedIn Learning saying that they're, the home for your professional development needs for the duration of your career. Now, last time I looked, that kind of fell to associations. So there's all of these people with huge budgets coming into the market that we need to be aware of and figure out where do they sit in relation to what we do. So all these things were happening before COVID. And the other things that were happening that's come a lot stronger through is that people, when they're looking at their association membership, they're not giving a donation. It's an investment in something they believe in, and they want a return on that investment. If I join my professional body, it's an investment in my career. Somehow I want to have the most successful career possible through you helping me to raise my profile, increase my income, decrease my costs, getting some kind of competitive advantage over somebody who isn't a member. The same with an industry association. If my business joins an industry body, then it's an investment in the success of my business. I want to increase my income, proactively influence my legislative environment, decrease my costs, and get some other advantage over somebody who isn't a member. And that's one of the things that we need to do is we need nowadays with adapting to the landscape is what is that return on investment? And how do we get people passionate about that? Traditionally, what associations have done is instead of talking about the return we generate for our members, we talk about, oh, well, we've got 1,000 members or 10,000 members or 20,000 members. And, no one gives a crap. No one cares how many members you've got, what your reserves are. What they care is what tangible difference do you make to their lives? And when people can see what you're doing, then they get passionate about what you want to do. And passion is a really important element of associations. And we'll talk more about that in a moment. But the next thing that people have been wanting, and this is getting more stark with COVID, and we'll talk more in a moment about that, but is the personalization. People don't want a one-size-fits-all approach. They want their association to understand what they want, when they need it, and give it to them. Now, that personalization is something that's immensely difficult to do if you don't have the technology sitting behind it. And the last factor that was affecting associations very strongly before COVID was this concept of community. There will always be people out there competing against you. You can't change that fact. But it is almost impossible to compete against a strong and engaged community of members who are working together to achieve a cause that they're passionate about. And that sense of community is an immensely undervalued strength of associations. And it's something that associations who capitalize on it can emerge from crises like this stronger than ever before. And that's why this crisis, while it is a disaster on so many different levels, represents an opportunity for associations. Because let's have a look at what the impact of COVID has been. And by the way, if anyone does have any questions, feel free to pop it into the chat. And when we get to the end of this session, I'll scroll back up the chat and answer those questions that have come through. Now, let's look at COVID-19. So what we're seeing is 4 really broad impacts that need to be addressed when you're looking at your membership models. The shift in work models has been rapid. We have seen this huge acceleration to digital take-up, things like this webinar, people moving to online solutions. We've seen increased acceptance and take-up of remote working on a scale that we would never have seen in this time frame. From the association perspective, this throws up a number of challenges with membership models, including if you're dealing with more geographically dispersed workforce and members, how do you engage with them effectively? How do you provide solutions to people who are becoming acclimatized to this work from home environment? Your membership models need to reflect the fact that the nature of work is shifting. And not only is the nature of work shifting, but so is the nature of the lifestyles that we're leading. There's a huge number of issues that are coming up now. First of all is the mental health issues, not just for those of us who are in isolation, but those people who are still working and knowing that they're exposing themselves to the potential to get sick, not just for them, but their families. One of the things that we need to consider with dealing with our members moving forward is that everyone to some extent is experiencing some kind of mental trauma, and we need to accommodate that as we move forward, and also appreciate that this may have an impact on their habits. It takes, they say, 28 days to start a habit. Right now, people are starting to pick up social avoidance habits. Now, those habits aren't going to disappear the moment that we can walk out and say, yeah, it's all done. So we've got to think about how do we help people to overcome these habits of social avoidance that they're picking up now. What do we need to do in our events, in the way that we deal with our members and our models? And the other thing to pick up is we're seeing already a number of people who are having these life epiphanies while in isolation. And I would say with a lot of confidence, we're about to see a lot of people who've gone, wow, I can work from home, and wow, I don't need to live here anymore. I can live anywhere and do this job. The idea of tree changes, sea changes come in there. That has impact on how our events work, and it raises the need for us to be diligent and enduring with this whole idea of delivering online and setting up membership models to enable that post this crisis. It also brings up a whole new range of opportunities to support members. Overlaying over all of this, we've got increased uncertainty. Change is constant. We are seeing, we know we're going to get a recession. It's just how bad it's going to be. We know there's going to be even more job losses and during and post this crisis. This means a lot of changes for workers and businesses. And how do we deal with our membership models? For example, the expansion of the gig economy. There are a lot more people moving into gigging roles now as they've lost their other jobs. For your membership, do your membership models accommodate this? Do your membership models accommodate people who are not working full-time jobs anymore? Do your membership models accommodate people who have cash flow issues and need to be able to pay in increments? We're dealing with a loss of members, but some of this loss is not, it doesn't have to happen. We can create pathways to enable people to continue to engage with us through the membership structures that we choose. And I'll talk through a number of those in a moment. But right now, we really do have, in this time where people are surrounded by this uncertainty, the opportunity to prove value. And that is why right now is the time for associations to shine. Associations were not created to help members when times are good. Associations were created to help members when they're struggling. And right now, a lot of people are struggling, and this is the time associations get to step up. And we're already seeing that. There are so many associations right now who are undergoing some of the most tremendous membership growth that they've ever experienced. The nurses, the Chamber of Commerce here in Queensland, there's a lot of organisations that are going through strong growth. Why? Because they're reaching out beyond their membership, because they're providing very practical, tangible solutions, both to members and on behalf of members. And you can see that coming through. Across the board, you're seeing this crisis has been a fantastic trigger for innovation and efficiencies that would never have occurred had this not happened. And so this is an opportunity to be grasped with both hands to say, what can we do differently that is going to enable us to adapt to not just the changing operational landscape we had before, but to what is happening to us right now. And that brings me to what I want to chat about today, which is this whole idea that traditional association membership models just don't cut it anymore. By themselves, they are not efficient and they don't align to what we need to do to service our members more effectively. We have a completely different operating landscape from when models were first developed, and we need to align. And look, let's take a quick look at where we've been with these models. So in the beginning, back when I first started in associations, closer to 30 years ago than I'd like to admit, you're either a member or a non-member. And if you're a member, you were in the room. And if you're a non-member, we shunned you like a rabid dog. Now, people wake up to the fact that it's kind of like you can't have this black and white, because people may not be a member for a variety of different reasons, or people might need a different pathway in than a one size fits all. So what we saw then is associations started going, oh, okay, well, maybe we need to look at stage of the business life cycle, or the number of units you've got, the number of locations, or with individual members, you know, what's your education, what's your salary. We started trying to find ways to pigeonhole members and create membership categories that were going to provide fair and equitable access to the association for members. And so we saw a number of different things come through. We saw generational segmentation, which doesn't work, because the generations that we know, like baby boomers and millennials, those only apply to Western society. And if you look at, for example, for the baby boomers, they grew up during the Cultural Revolution, the time of free love and all of those things. At the same time period in China, they had a very different cultural revolution going on with a whole lot more blood. Now, the thing that creates those generational characteristics are the things that happened to you in your formative years. What was happening in the Western world and say what was happening in the China at that time was so different that the impact on the psyche of those youngsters was going to be very different. So the generational characteristics that you'd apply to, say, someone from the Western world, you can't apply to someone from China or anywhere else other than in the Western world. So they're really, while they're an interesting indicator in some instances, it's certainly not what you can do for membership. We saw people try career life cycle, and this is an actual segmentation model used with a client. Now, this is great if you're a first career professional association that follows a very traditional career hierarchy, but even then it doesn't allow for nuances. It's better than nothing. Business life cycle, the same kind of thing. Very much like a career life cycle, when somebody's first starting off in their business or their career, they don't want to be kept up to date. They need to be brought up to date because there's so much stuff that they don't know. And so by setting membership models that align to life cycle, it does make sense that you can change what you're doing, but it doesn't take advantage, it doesn't appreciate the fact that, for example, I might be starting a new business now, but this might not be my first business. I may have had 6 businesses previously. So we saw the thoughts around membership models continue to evolve. And what we saw here is things like benefit sort, which is one that Philanthropy Australia uses at the moment. And this is where you look at what do people want to get out of the membership. So this is another step up to really start thinking about, well, getting the member to consider what they want to get from their membership. But the challenge from this is when you look at these categories, they're not intuitive. So when I look at it, if I look at the word, I can't immediately pick where do I belong. Now, we did see another variation of this with the IGA in the US, where they did a contribution level. So how much are you going to engage and contribute? You know, if you're just contributing at $50, that's for students, but a trustee is somebody who is going to, wants to be recognized as a bigger player in the industry, and they pay their $2,500 a year. Once again, it's not an intuitive category. And I've got to say, I haven't put in here, and mainly because it's my little soapbox moment, because I hate counterintuitive member categorization. If you've got the words affiliate, associate, full member, standard member, or any of those things which have no inherent meaning to anybody in the outside of the association, don't use them, because they carry an inherent bias. If I said to one person, you're a full member, and to someone else, you're an affiliate member, which one is better? You don't want to use member categorization labels that imply that somebody is better or not than somebody else. You're better off using labels that somebody intuitively knows where they fit. For example, are you a student? Are you fully qualified? Are you a business with 6 to 10 staff? Those kind of labels, I look at the heading, I know, boom, in I go. The notion of intuitive categories is really important, which is why you saw, for example, with this particular health charity here, they looked at a segmentation model where, right, well, we've got a person who has diabetes, a carer of someone with diabetes, an individual supporter, someone who donates money but doesn't necessarily have the condition, a health professional who's an individual, an organization, a corporate supporter. Now, the reason I like these intuitive models is because one of the things that they do is not only does when somebody looks at them, do they intuitively know where they sit, The other thing that happens is you can bundle products and services specifically to the needs of those people and their expectations of the outcomes from the membership. Because nowhere is it written that you need to provide all products and services to all members. So, for example, if I'm a health professional, the reason that I'm joining is about not only advancing my own career by gaining the information and insights that I need, but also to affect improved patient outcomes. Whereas if somebody is a corporate supporter, say somebody who makes blood testing supplies, they're joining because they want to sell more product. They want their business to be successful by increasing their sales. Whereas somebody who has diabetes, a person with diabetes would be joining because they want the tools, insights, and information to help manage their condition, or to be able to support the idea of working towards a cure. So you can see here with this intuitive categorization model that it becomes much clearer, not only for the member, but also for the association, because once you've got this, you can start segmenting your communication and using strong messages. Because one of the challenges at the moment, particularly in COVID, is we're all drowning in information. Everyone's sending us an email about running a webinar. Yeah, I know. So, but if our communications are very targeted and very aligned to the person we're sending them to, they're more likely to get cut through. Actually, I see Megan's just put a question. I'll address that one here. What if your association refers to sponsors as sustaining partners? Depends on the context of your association. I like the idea of partners because it does imply a greater level of involvement, but it also depends on how you're backing it up and your messaging that sits around that. Because how you position your membership categories is really important as well. But one of the things that has been a limiting factor with traditional models is that they don't enable associations to harness that key competitive advantage, that strong and engaged community, because they tend to sit as a very static list of categories. You're here, 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 here. But one of the things when you're looking at membership models, it's not just that static list of categories. It needs a top and a tail. You need an entry point during which that you can engage with people, because recruiting and retaining members is kind of like dating. You're not going to walk up to somebody and say, so you want to get married? You've got to show a bit of ankle first. There's that whole dating thing. And just because you're ready to sell a membership doesn't mean that someone's ready to join. They need to get to know you first. And there needs to be something that sits before the membership categories and also something that sits after, because there is no membership category that I've ever seen, and I've done this for a very long time, that provides a comprehensive solution for everyone in that segment. There's got to be something that sits after that. And it recognizes the fact that members are going through many, many different journeys. They're going to be at a different life stage. They might have a business that's at a different business stage. Their career is at a different stage. There are lots of association-related journeys that they might be going on. They might be really involved or uninvolved. The revenue brackets is a good one. I'll talk about that shortly when we get to the end there. And there's other journeys as well. They might have medical conditions, hobbies, interests, sporting. So your membership model is never going to enable you, say through having 5 or 6 categories, to resonate with every person. So what you need to do is have top level categories that enable you to broadly segment your members, and then under that provide lower levels of segmentation where you can get the data and hopefully use machine thinking, where you can then use marketing automation to deepen and personalize a relationship with the member. And one of the things that means is you also have to look at your component relations and what are your component structures, because your membership framework doesn't sit in isolation. You've got committees, branches, special interest groups, and a whole heap of groups that sit under that. Now, traditionally, under traditional membership models, what happens is that framework is very rigid. It's what we call either a centralized or a decentralized framework. So we're the national office and we have 7 state branches, and each of those branches is responsible for the state that they operate, and they might oversight several other committees. Now, the problem with these traditional models where you dictate what committees will be there and you don't allow duplication is invariably in one committee, there'll be somebody sitting in that committee who is a complete and utter pain in the bum, and everybody hates them, and anybody who's only interested in that topic goes to that committee to get involved and then has an awful experience, has got nowhere else to go. And so it inhibits your ability to engage members. What we really want to do is move to more distributed committee networks through some of these modern community-based models. And I'm going to share that community-based model with you because the community-based models are really interesting. So work on the basis that if your competitive advantage is a strong and engaged community, well, theoretically, communities don't need a membership structure to be successful. There's lots of examples of successful communities out there who don't have a formalized structure sitting around them. But a really great membership structure can assist your member community to grow and thrive. So let's have a look at the difference between traditional and community models. So what I've done here is, and I've tried to put a lot of words on the page just so that some people I know will want to go back and have a look at this, and I'll put the PowerPoints up afterwards. But if you look at a traditional association model, you pay your money to join. You might get to pay it monthly or in quarterly in some kind of installments, but you're still paying an annual fee. And non-members traditionally have fairly limited engagement. They're that's a non-member. They're not exactly an equal to members. The association manages groups and discourages those who aren't connected to the association, like, oh my God, they went off and started their own group. Can you believe that? Now, that's an example of where association isn't facilitating community effectively enough when people are going off and setting communities up outside of the association. When I go into an association and I can see a lot of competitor organizations coming up around it, I know that association's got some issues around community. In a traditional model, an association determines the segments and allocates members. We have these 12 market segments and we put the members into them and they will get this information and nothing else except for the stuff we send out to everybody. There's also fewer groups and little duplication because conservation of resources. You go, well, why would we have 6 groups on tax reform? So what happens in a traditional association model, so there'll be one group for each special interest and the association will be heavily involved in managing those groups. In a traditional model, the association tells and informs members. We keep our members up to date. We send out information that they need to know. Most of the information is from the association out to the member. There's very little of between the member communication going on. And that's also means that the association tends to create and distribute the content. Part of that content creation might be getting information from members, but the association is the hub of content creation. And for that reason, most income's generated from association-related activities, and the association wants to control and own all of the products and services out there. Now, that's at the extreme of a traditional model. Let's have a look at the community model. So community models are quite different. First of all, imagine an example of a community membership model on a very broad scale would be Facebook or LinkedIn, and probably LinkedIn's the best one there because you can join LinkedIn for free, but you can upgrade to specific packages depending on your needs, and you can upgrade and downgrade whenever you want. LinkedIn doesn't go and say, well, you're a non-member, you're not allowed to come play on our site. Anybody can come and play on the site and gain value. They can transact, they can make purchases, and they can deepen their personal and emotional engagement with the community. And that is an excellent example of showing that little bit of ankle and getting people engaged. Free members are welcome community participants and can create groups and run groups and list events and do all of these kind of things on there. The association in these models may manage core groups, like there might be a particular advocacy groups really key and integral to the core business of the association that needs to be done. But in a community model, the association encourages the proliferation of other groups that are independent within, of course, rules and frameworks to ensure that nothing untoward is happening. So the participants then begin to tribalize. Now, a tribe is immensely different from a segment. A segment is something that the association dictates. We have primary school educators. That's a great segment, but a tribe might be a group of primary school educators who live out in one particular suburb who get together and play basketball on a Saturday. That's a tribe. A tribe exists whether you like it or not. Associations can nurture tribes, but it doesn't mean that that tribe might exist even if the association wasn't there. So as an association, you want to position yourself as a platform that brings together the tribes and enables them to have a point where they can connect. You need to be able to foster them. That's why in these community models, these platform models, because you want to be the platform upon which that your industry or profession can play, you'll find there's a lot of duplication, and that's okay. at the risk of now, because this is getting recorded, so this is going to probably be humiliation for years on, don't judge me, but I love collecting, I love pantry porn. I love baskets. I love when all of the labels are pointing forward, and there's like 20,000 plus groups on Facebook for mums who organize. I'm a member of 3. Why am I a member of 3 and not 20,000? It's because I've checked out and joined many, many groups, many, many tribes I've gone to visit. But the challenge is some of them were a bit judgy. They were a bit mean. They really weren't my people. The 3 that I've settled on are people who take joy out of sharing and commenting and congratulating other people on how awesome their baskets look. And that's okay. I've found these 3 little tribes. The duplication enabled me to find a place. And that's the same thing that you're doing when you look at these newer models. And it's particularly relevant now when you have no idea what is happening with different members, and you've got to provide the pathway for them to find their tribe and then to connect directly where the association isn't inhibiting engagement between members. Your job's to create the platform that brings them together, but you don't have to sit there and hold their hand while they talk. And in an instance like this, like LinkedIn, it's the participants who create and distribute the majority of the content. And as you move into community models and as you artificially build that momentum, what you will find is that the content that starts coming through is going to be predominantly participant generated. Now, at this point, people will generally say to me, oh, but we need to check and make sure that it's okay. Okay, that doesn't mean you shouldn't do it. It just means that you need to put in place framework. So for example, if someone uploads content to your site, it might be that other members get to vote on it. And then once it's been voted on or it's had a certain number of stars, it's gone through. It's got a tick to show that it's an association endorsed piece of content because your group of peers who review the content have had a look at it. Just because something, you've got these roadblocks, I would never treat them as a reason not to do something. I'd think of a logical reason to go, logical way to manage it to get the outcome you want while also fostering that sense of community. In an instance like this with these communities, the association retains its core services, but previously all of these people, remember we talked about competitors before? Those competitors start to become your partners. So say, for example, I don't know any association that's got the ability to run training in every single city in Australia every day of the week. You simply don't have the resources, but how awesome for your members if they had access to that kind of thing. But if you're a platform where training providers can come in and promote their training, and you get a clip of the ticket when people register, they pay you to be able to promote it out, they might pay to sit on the site. All of those people who were previously competitors for your training now become your partners. And so it opens up your revenue generation capacity enormously. And of course, yes, normally somebody here will say, but what about if their service isn't very good? Well, if their service isn't very good, or if you're worried about quality control, put in place a few hoops that people have to jump through. Put in place the ability for when members have attended some training to come back and be able to review it on the website. Put in place things that enable that to be something that builds your community further. And something else that people rarely consider when you're looking at these kind of communities is the revenue generation potential far exceeds that which is available through traditional models, because you would still make money through the upgrades or equivalent to your current membership, so you can retain a lot of your membership income. You can still run events through it, you can still generate a lot of the income that you already did. But consider this: if you've got a platform where all these other service providers are coming on and promoting and selling their products through your platform, and your turnover goes from, say, $500,000 a year to 10 million a year, and all of these transactions are going through your platform, you can do what we call taking micro transactions, a clip of the ticket. And so in addition to generating the revenue that you already do, you can, yes, this is being recorded. So in order to be able to, you can generate all the revenue you already did, plus this whole deal of, imagine taking a clip of the ticket off every transaction that your industry or profession does. That can add up to a significant amount of money very, very quickly. And the technology is already available to do this. And when you are looking at building these, because essentially what we're talking about is not fully a LinkedIn, because LinkedIn lacks a number of the things that associations want, but that kind of, if you had your own, where members could come and play. And unlike going to Facebook, where you've got just as much chance of seeing what someone ate for lunch yesterday as a beheading video, you can actually make it focused on the outcomes that people are wanting, so that their newsfeed, when it comes up, is very much tailored to them and their needs, because what you've done is this. This is an idea of a community membership model structure. I'm going to talk to you about that, Ariana, in just a moment. So the community membership model structure is this. You want to keep it simple and intuitive. So you want to instill powerful value at the free level. And that is a lot like LinkedIn does now. So you can go in and you can get that. One of the things that LinkedIn doesn't have is it doesn't have a resources library. It doesn't have the ability for people to immediately set up an account to be able to transact and have money go straight into their bank account. So for example, with the Answers site that I've been talking about, because I'm very passionate about it, that's built on a platform that we've created called Tribes. And Tribes came because I got the shits with all of the existing technology players, that they're all about these old traditional CRM systems, and didn't understand we have to lead with the community, and everything else comes off this online community. And one of the things that we built in there is anybody, so any one of you who went to the Answers website, you can go in about 30 seconds, set up a Stripe account, put in your bank details, and start listing your resources. So you might have some really great checklists, you might run your own webinars on something that you're particularly good at. You can list it all, charge for it, and the money just gets put straight into your account. So what you're doing with these communities is you can give your members the ability to generate an income from coming to your site. And that is something where the idea that your membership might make you money rather than cost you money is amazing. So this is what you do here then. So when you're looking at your structure, you need a free way to come in. So that free way to come in, they should have the ability to engage and build their connections and build their networks. And then what you can do is, if you have the right technology in place where it's got some machine thinking, some AI sitting behind it, it'll actually, and very much like LinkedIn does, prompt people to upgrade. Now, upgrade options need to be simple and intuitive. You don't want to have any more than 4 or 5. You want to keep it there where people can upgrade to a premium bundle that resonates with them. I really don't recommend not having an upgrade, because the upgrades are easy, an easy way to generate income to fund your site. But there's lots of different ways that you can do it, and I'm going to go to an example in a second. Can be types of business or career-based structure. Labels are there. I hate gold, silver, and bronze as a rule, but I put this in because I know some people are doing it, but it's only relevant very, very rarely. You really want to go for these intuitive categories. And then what you do is, once someone's gone into the premium options, you personalize their experience by using machine thinking and marketing automation to recognize when they're on particular journeys and present them with specific experiences. And you then monetize all of this via microtransactions and other elements. So if you look here, this is an example, and I'm going to use the Answers site because, my gosh, we're in development on that at the moment. So the beta version is live. So when you go into it, it's not the final one. We're dropping new features constantly at the moment, but we've launched it a bit earlier so that I can illustrate these, give examples and show what I'm talking about when I talk about this stuff. But if you're looking at this, there are 4 options when somebody goes to that site, but it's very clear where you sit. Free, anyone can get in and have a look around. You need to do the same with your members. If you're an association professional, you're going to want different things than a supplier to an associations or recruiters. A recruiter wants to get candidates and it wants to get out word about their job. A supplier doesn't want to go out to every single person. It wants to connect to the people who genuinely need their products and services so that they can sell those to those people who genuinely need them. Whereas an association professional is often seeking to be able to enhance the outcomes for themselves and for their association by accessing insights, training, resources, that kind of thing. Very, very different needs. So what happens here is, when somebody goes into one of those categories, that gives us a huge amount of data. We know that if somebody goes into a recruiter category, then we're not going to send them things about reshaping membership models, for example. They're going to get stuff that's relevant to them. And marketing automation enables us to progress people along a pathway. So say, for example, an association professional is clicking on a lot of membership things, registering for a lot of membership things. Okay, so that's, and then you can actually go, right, well, we need to push them into more of these products that they're obviously showing interest. Now, Kyla, the association membership revenue, so Kyla's asked here in the chat, she said, if the association relies on its membership revenue and has little funds to spend on technology, also membership that are not technically savvy, I would say just about everybody can use Facebook. And this is not a sales pitch for our software, so please don't, because you can make this yourself and you can go off. But I know with the software that we've put together, it's as easy to use as Facebook, and we've deliberately used similar kind of menu structure. So when people go in there, they feel comfortable. If you're reliant on membership revenue, it shouldn't overly impact your membership revenue if you structure it correctly, because you build into these upgrades the ability for people to be able to access a higher or premium level of services that are equivalent to what they currently get as a member. So really, your funds should go up. And in terms of cost, our goal is to make this as close as possible to free as we can. We've only literally just launched all this at the beginning, I think, last week. And we're still in development, and we have the cost to get what we've got at the moment runs at about 10 grand plus a monthly fee depending on the hosting level you want. But our goal is to get that down as close as we can to nothing and have a wizard where people can set it up. Because my strong belief is that technology should not be an expense for associations. You need to be generating more revenue through things like your microtransactions of your technology than it actually costs you to have that technology. And there is no reason with the way that technology is progressing at the moment why that shouldn't be possible and accessible for every single association. Tribes, so Tribes, I love that you put that. Does Tribe System work with WordPress? When you're looking at these online communities, they replace your current website. Traditional websites are dead. The whole idea that you go and you have a brochure that people go to and that resonates with everyone doesn't work. When you want to, you can still have that. You might have a non-registered page in there which people can go to so that they get enough info to want to register. But people nowadays, particularly your younger people, and I know that Kylie said that about that, the younger members, they're very comfortable with technology, but this is one of the things that's come from COVID. Older people are now engaging with technology more because they need to. In fact, I know a couple of people that brought their retirement forward by 3 or 4 years because, in their words, I'm not dealing with all this newfangled crap anymore. And you know what? That's okay. If you've got the ability to do that, do that. And this is where, if we've got to work with people going through this, but the majority of people now, and I think it used to be 5 years ago, it would be, yes, older people are really resistant to technology, but it's less and less the case now. The fastest growing age group for gamers is the over 60s because they're into all of these little online games that they play. So we can't discount that generation because of the fact that there are still a few holdouts, because there's still holdouts with the younger generation. We've been doing some research and we found that there's a reasonably strong cohort of young people who refuse to log into Facebook. But you know, all this stuff that I'm talking about now, and I'll quickly show you what I'm talking about. I hope I've left it logged in, that Tribe's website, and the answer's one, but this is only an interim step. This is the next step towards the end goal. And I'm going to come to these questions in a moment. But the end goal is mass personalization, where the member experience is completely intuitively and seamlessly personalized from the moment they engage with the association. That is not something that is possible right now, but it is certainly something that is on the horizon, and you can see it coming so clearly as technology and our ability to data mine and embed machine thinking where certain actions result from that information. It's so close you can almost taste it. But you know what, even if you've got a fantastic membership model and fantastic technology, it's not going to be successful unless you've gone through and aligned the other areas that must align for this to work. So that means you've got to have a visionary leadership team. Your board and your senior leadership team have got to have a united, like a shared vision of the future and where you've got to go. And they've got to be able to convert that vision into a strategy and an implementation plan to make it real and to know how we're going to get there. Your constitution governance is going to have to catch up, because a lot of these kind of models, the old style constitutions, don't allow for it. Your different components, if you've got branches and special interest groups, I've worked with a couple of associations recently where we sat down and we analysed how successful it was having physical branches in each state, and we worked out they were making a massive loss on it because they weren't being used, and those funds could have been better utilised taking things out to the members rather than hoping that a member up in Rockhampton is going to come down to the Brisbane office. your staffing and your organizational culture, I would suggest that there's roles right now that don't exist in associations that in 5 years' time will be some of the highest paid roles out there. And number one is a community engagement manager, somebody whose job it is to motivate and build community, because membership theory is very clear on this. You don't grow your membership by trying to nurture every possible member. You grow your membership most quickly by nurturing your most passionate members more passionately. Someone has to have the job to do that. You must have the technology, processes, and marketing automation systems to build that up. You've got to have the right products, services, publications, and events geared to different journeys, different market segments. This one size fits all is not ever going to work anymore. You have to have the right advocacy sitting ahead that's in thought leadership, so that you can engage your members on an emotional level with what you're trying to do. And your comms and branding. I mean, these things here, all of these things, your business development frameworks, no one's ever going to join if you don't ask them. How do you ask them? How do you embed it both offline and online? So these are all the things that you need to align. But the very first step is making sure that your association boards and leaders understand the need for urgent action. Because when I talk about these models, if the association, if you're in an area where there's competing associations, the association that does this successfully first will dominate the industry or profession that they're in. And if you're in a competitive environment, you need to be the first successfully to market. So you need to act quickly to make the necessary changes. Now, I'm rushed through to make sure we fit in the time. I'm going to come to the questions, but just quickly before I do, for those who do need to leave us today, this recording is going to be available at answers.net.au tomorrow. There's a workshop on Wednesday morning, which is looking through those areas of alignment that I spoke about. The video chats on Friday and the online discussion group. You can find all of that information at answers.net.au. Now, I'm just going to run through now, and thank you to those who have to leave us now. I'm just going to go through some of these questions that are sitting here. Nicholas said, I agree we need lots of points of connection, this constant challenge in industry association where the business is a member. Yes, because in this, the key success factor for industry associations is penetration, multiple points of contact with individualized membership experiences for each individual associated with that business. That is absolutely key. Now, how do you manage consensus building to show? Do you know what? I find that this is a better way of gaining consensus, because there's lots of different ways that you can do it. You can, if you've got a broad community, it's much easier to do polling within a broad community, and even if that's connected to an email going out, to get them to come back in, but also then to discuss certain points. And if you can set up your data mining effectively, sometimes you won't even need to poll them, because you can look at their actual behavior to determine that. Data management is going to become one of the most key skill set areas for associations moving forward, and I would see more and more associations bringing in data analysts as a result. If you offer a subscription type membership as a pay per month and direct debit, do you get a notification if someone stops paying? Yes, you absolutely. It's not just get a notification, you'll have entire marketing automation built around that. So it's a direct debit. If someone doesn't pay, certain triggers happen, and say, for example, it emails someone, and if they don't open the email, it might then send a trigger to an individual to make a phone call. So just how do you make this change when membership change requires sanction AGM? Okay, there's a couple of different ways. First of all, just a label in your constitution isn't a label in your marketing. So first of all, I look at the constitution and say, well, what is this something where we can fit it by just using a different marketing label, or is it something that requires a change? And if it requires a sanction AGM, you've got to work to get it through. I do know that a couple of associations that are launching these not with the association name, they're actually picking Latin variations of their industry or profession and launching it because they have global domination aspirations, and they've realized that their name may be overly conservative to engage with the market that they need. And where do you shift? Look, the best place to start is by thinking about where you want to go. I always find if I want to figure out what the next step is, I always try to figure out first, what is the end goal? What do we want to achieve? So for example, the technology we're putting together talks with IMIS, and it talks with all of the other people, because we know a lot of associations have already invested a lot in that, and they just really want that ability to build a community. And so it's, if you figure out the end goal and then work backwards, what do I need to be doing here in the next day, month, 6 months to be able to get there. But you know, the beautiful thing is right now in this crisis, it's never been a better time. I'm seeing people get through innovations they've been fighting for years, and they're finally getting it on. Now, I will just do one thing. For those of you, just if people want to have a look at the, and you're probably going to get to see a bit more about my computer now than you need to. I will show you, if I can get it up, the answers site for those people who want to stick around just for a moment and take a look. I hadn't intended to do that, so it wasn't up and ready. Alrighty, so I'm just going to share the screen here and you can watch. Okay, I'm just going to bring the. Alrighty, so, and what you can see here is, and I'm just, alrighty, so what you can see here is you log in and you've got a newsfeed. That newsfeed is personalized exactly to your needs. Now, the thing that I was talking about before, how members can make money, when I go to edit my profile, I can see here that my seller information, literally to set myself up as a seller, it took me less than a minute. So you've got your profile, I've got my messages, I can join groups. So when I say to you, come and join the membership chat, it's come and join that, but you can create your own groups if you want to. You can actually go in, and any one of you here, if you've got something to say, create an event, run your own webinar, sell it, make some money off it, or give it away for free if you want to help people. You can put stuff up for sale in the store. You can list and rate resources. So you'll see all of the webinars, everything we do will end up in this resources library here. You can list and post a job. You can find suppliers. So this is actually a beta site that we're putting together. Has that share worked? Just let me know if that hasn't come up. So this is the, sorry. Can you see that share? Yeah. So when you look at this here, you can see I've got my suppliers, resources. You can see it now, great. Events, so you can go in. This is the kind of thing where we're heading, where it's intuitive as Facebook. And one of the things that comes up, when I connect to people, I see their posts, very much like Facebook or LinkedIn. So it helps me to build my tribe around it. And then my newsfeed is totally personalized to what I've followed. And then if somebody goes to join me, I can accept. So this is what we're talking about when we're talking about creating these communities. Every single person that logs in here is going to have a completely different experience from somebody that isn't, or somebody that's gone and is logged in and friended with other people. And that's going to be the future of association membership. So thank you very much. I want to make sure I stick to time, but as I say, if you've got any questions, jump on the chat, register for the video discussion, or let me know and I'd be happy to help. Thank you.